Thank you, Michael. This is a story that many Minnesotans can relate to, going up to the cabin in the summer or the winter, really all year long, and kind of taking in some of ththose memories. So Elliott is here today with his book called Whispering Pines. It's Elliott Foster's book. You're a local author, and boy, I got to tell you, we're really this is exactly how I want to read a book like this. Tell me a little bit about this.
Sure. So it's I think a quintessential Minnesota story about a family and several generations owning a cabin and just enjoying all the bountiful Northwoods of Minnesota.
And the way that you wrote this story was through a collection of actual journal entries, is that right?
Yes, so my family has a cabin, and kept a journal for over 50 years. So I scoured that, took some great stories, and turned it into a novel.
And how did it become a novel? Because it sounds like maybe, you know, you start just by reading these journal entries, and you're a lawyer by day.
I am.
How did this happen?
So I was just very interested in recording my own family's experience, and of course, sometimes you want to embellish, and so finally I said I'm just going to free myself from sticking to the story and write a fictional story.
So, in writing a fictional story, what sorts of things are in there? Is this going to be kind of adventurous, thrilling? What happens?
I like to think of it as light because we go to the cabin usually for fun and for family and to enjoy ourselves, so it's, I think, a happy book. There's some sad stories in it as well, but it tries to realistically capture the Minnesota cabin experience.
And a family experience too, a family story. 3 parts, so it's written from 3 different perspectives. First part is it your grandmother's perspective?
It's based on the grandmother in the story.
Okay.
And then the middle part by her daughter, the second generation, and then the third one by the grandson.
Why did you decide to do that?
When I first wrote it, I wrote it as kind of a third-person narrative, and it just didn't feel very personal, and so I thought to tell a story over 80 years, you need a couple of different people, and so the generational approach seemed to make sense.
Well, it's really interesting from the grandmother's perspective. As I started reading this book, you've got all these this terminology from that era. How did you know all that, or did you just have to do a lot of research?
I did quite a bit of research, and I learned a lot along the way, which was really gratifying to not only tell a story, but learn stories.
Nice. I think they called it, you called a radio a talkie, is that right? Or what?
Talkies.
Talkies.
Right,
nice, nice. Where can we see you today? You're doing a book signing, is that right?
At 3 o'clock, I'll be in Northeast Minneapolis at the Eat My Words bookstore.
Wonderful. Selling your book, signing your book, answering questions?
All of the above.
All right. Well, Elliott Foster, thank you so much for coming in. Whispering Pines is the name of the book. It's available at most bookstores now. And Mike Augustnak, let's see what's going on with the weather. I wonder if it's going to be kind of a cabin sort of weekend.